Will you sit with me? Will you sit with me just for a little while? I know there's a world we're fighting for. Friend, I am hurting. Friend, I am hurting just for a little while. I know there's a world we're fighting for. just for a little while. I know there's a world we're fighting for. Will you sit with me? Will you sit with me? Just for a little while, just for a little while. I know there's a world we're fighting for. I know there's a world we're fighting for. I know there's a world we're fighting for. I'd like to invite you to join me in singing hymn number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. We're going to be singing a lot today, and I invite you to participate in whatever way your spirit needs this morning. If the words elude you and you just want to hum along, that's okay, that's just as good. And if what you need is to sit in silence and just soak in the sound of the room, that's okay too, that's just as good. And if what you need is to dance in the aisles and rock out like you are alone in the car with the radio, this is your morning to do it. I invite you to rise in body or spirit.
Parish in Milton. My name is Lisa White, and I'm a member of our worship committee. If you're having trouble hearing us, please raise your hand here in the meeting house, or, you good? Oh, I thought you raised your hand, okay. Or on Zoom, you can message us in the chat function. Everybody okay? We are so glad that you've chosen to be here with us this morning or to join us virtually. However your journey, whatever your heritage, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. Your presence here on Sunday morning enriches worship for everyone. This sanctuary is made holy by your presence. If you're joining us for the first time, a special welcome, and you'll find information about First Parish in your pew. One of the greeters or I would be happy to walk you over to our social hour after the service and to answer any questions you might have. This morning, we're happy to welcome back Matt Meyer to lead our service. The work of living our faith is done in and out of worship, so I call your attention to the announcements that came with your order of worship and that are also emailed in the weekly link. In particular, there are a couple of things I want to draw your attention to. This Saturday, May 6th, Milton Community Concerts will hold its 8th annual Sing for Their Supper performance right here in the sanctuary at 7 o'clock. It's a benefit for the Milton Food Pantry and the Milton Residence Fund, so there's no charge for the concert itself. It's always been an entertaining show, and I know Tim has some top talent lined up again this year, so it should be really good. Also note that our annual meeting is coming up on May 21st in the Parish Hall right after the service. This is one of the most important ways that we live out our fifth principle using the democratic process within our congregation. So please participate if you can. And finally, today is Milton Green Up Day. So Tucker Smith has created a display at the end of the link, and it's got all the supplies you need to go out somewhere and clean up in Milton. And there's also a table. I'm looking for Tucker. Where are you? There you are. Okay. There's a table out in the carriage house where you can deposit your full bags of trash, right?
Right in front of the carriage hall, or not the carriage shed along the parking lot. The town DPW will pick them up early tomorrow. So you don't have to do it around here, but go home, if the weather improves, go out, get some fresh air, pick up some trash and recycling, and bring them back.
Thank you. Now let's greet each other. Let's take a few moments to extend a warm welcome to old friends and new, and stay in your pews to be COVID safe. And if you're on Zoom, just turn on your camera, go to gallery view so you can see each other.
Hello. Jonah, I know you're there. Hi, Bonnie. Are you there?
Hi, Adia. Hi, Bonnie.
How's it going?
Good, thanks. How about you?
It's going well. Hi, Bonnie. I think you're muted.
Sorry, it's actually Laurie. I don't know how to
Oh, hi,
change
Laurie.
and I don't know how to change the name on this.
Oh,
Bonnie's my daughter.
oh, okay. I love that name. How's it going with you?
Good. I love Matt Meyer so much.
It was beautiful, right? I
Yeah.
tuned in and that's what I heard. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Is that a cat decal on your on the top of your window?
Oh yes. Yeah. It's a
I
little wooden thing. As a matter of fact, I think I got it from Sophie Brown.
Oh,
Over-
Sophie, my Sophie. I see her
Yeah.
like once or twice a week.
Oh
She's-
wow.
Yeah,
As
she's
we
awesome.
enter into worship,
Oh, whoops.
please take a moment to
bye.
make sure your cell phones are silenced.
Hi.
Now is the moment when we can focus on being here, when we can choose to connect with ourselves and the divine, when we can choose to just be present.
Chalice lighting this morning. Our chalice lighting comes from Adrian Rich, who says, "My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who age after age perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world." And I invite you to join together in reading our call to worship found in your order of service. Come, let us gather. We gather to celebrate the sacred within and among us. We come to seek spiritual growth and understanding. We strive to practice acceptance, forgiveness, and love. Together, we work to build a world with justice and compassion. Come, let us gather. I'd love to share a story for all ages with you. Today's service is about how we can take care of each other and how we can use whatever tools we may have available to us to make the world a better place. That we don't have to accept the things the way they are, the way they're handed down to us. We can imagine new futures for our children and for future generations to come. So this is a story about a young girl named Miriam. And Miriam was just about to start 4th grade, and she was thrilled about it. Because 4th grade was the year in her school that every student got to learn to play an instrument and play in the school orchestra. And Miriam loved music, and so she was thrilled. Anybody here love music? Anybody here play in the school band or orchestra? Oh, nice. A lot of you band nerds here. I love it. So Miriam, on the first day, was so excited that she showed up extra early to orchestra practice. She showed up early and she walked into that room and just looked at all of the instruments all over the place, wondering what instrument she would get to learn to play. There was a giant bass drum. There were beautiful, shiny brass trumpets. There were beautiful violins. She saw her teacher, Miss Berman, there. And she asked her, she said, "Here I am. I'm ready. What instrument do you need me to play in the orchestra?" Miss Berman looked at her and said, "Miriam, right? I think I've got just the instrument for you." And she disappeared into her office for a minute, and she came back out with a tambourine. "Well, a tambourine?" Miriam asked. But is that even an instrument?" "Well, of course," said Miss Berman, "every great orchestra needs a great tambourine player, and you are our tambourine player." Well, Miriam took the tambourine, but for the whole rehearsal all day long, she had to play the same rhythm over and over and over. It went like this. Dot, 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 dot. Can you all try that? Dot, 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 dot. And she came back to rehearsal the next day on Tuesday, and it was the same rhythm all day long throughout the entire rehearsal. It went dot, 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 dot. And Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, for the whole rest of the week, she was in rehearsal, and it was the same rhythm all day long for the whole entire time. It went dot, 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 dot. And you might guess that Miriam was not any more excited about the tambourine at the end of the week than she had been at the beginning. So she was feeling pretty sad about it that weekend, and particularly that Sunday morning when she went to church with her family. She sat down in her Sunday school class, and her teacher, Mahesh, noticed that she was looking kind of sad, and he asked her about it. She said, "I was so excited to learn to play an instrument and to play in the school orchestra and make music, but I ended up playing the tambourine, and I just play the same rhythm all week long. It goes..." "The tambourine," Mahesh said. He said, "Did you know that where my family comes from, in southern India, we call the tambourine, what is it that we call it? We call it a rick, and we play it a very different way, but every sound on the tambourine is a different sound that you can sing with your voice. And so people put together the different sounds and the different tones of the tambourine, and they string together whole poems made out of the rhythms. Takita-doom, kuta-dengi, na-tum-tum, ta-tum, takita-doom." People write, well, not just poems, they write whole books of the poetry made out of the sounds and the rhythms of the tambourine, where I come from. Where I come from, the tambourine is an instrument for creating, well, poetry and beauty in the world. "Poetry and beauty," Miriam said. "That doesn't sound so bad." So she was thinking about that, and after church, all the adults were running around at coffee hour, but Miriam was sitting by herself. And a family friend, Anna, came and sat with her. Anna remembered. She said, "This is the week that you were going to learn to play an instrument and play in the school orchestra. How's it going?" "Well," she said, "I was so excited about it, but I ended up with the tambourine, and I just play the same rhythm all week long. It goes..." "The tambourine," Anna said. She said, "Did you know that where my family is from in Brazil, we call the tambourine a pandeiro? And people have been playing the pandeiro for hundreds of years, for generations and generations in Brazil. And when my ancestors came to Brazil as enslaved people," she said, "they would play the pandeiro as a way of making community and music and taking care of each other, even when times were so difficult. And they would even use the music of the pandero to secretly practice martial arts so they could protect themselves against the people that held them there as slaves. Where I come from, the tambourine is an instrument for safety and for community. Safety and community, Miriam said. Well, that doesn't sound so bad. So she was thinking about all of this when she went back to school the next day. She saw her teacher, Miss Berman, there, and she told her about the tambourine of India and the tambourine of Brazil and about poetry and beauty and safety and community. But she said, I don't know what any of that has to do with me, though I'm still playing the same rhythm all week long that goes. Well, Miss Berman said, she asked, Miriam, do you know where your name comes from? She said, of course, from my parents. Well, right, she asked, but do you know who Miriam was? She said, in your family's history, in your family's story, and there's a story of your ancient ancestors fleeing slavery in Egypt and traveling to a promised land of freedom. And as they were making their way on that journey, they had a wonderful celebration. A celebration to celebrate the fact that they were out of slavery and they were on their way to a promised land. And they celebrated particularly when a woman named Miriam got out her tambourine and invited people to sing and dance and celebrate that journey they were making together. Miriam was one of the first recorded musicians in history, even. She said, in your family's history, the tambourine was an instrument of traveling, making our way together towards freedom and towards a place of greater love. Freedom and love, Miriam said. Well, that doesn't sound too bad. Miriam eventually learned to try out and play some of the other instruments in the orchestra. She played a little bit of the bass drum, and she took some violin lessons, and she got violin lessons, and she got pretty good on the trumpet too. But she always remembered the story of the tambourine. How even the simplest, most basic of instruments, the simplest of tools, had been used all around the world and all throughout history for people to change the world around them, to create poetry and beauty, to create community and safety for each other, and to celebrate the journey we're all trying to make towards love and freedom. I think that's a little bit of what we do here also on Sunday mornings, is that we come together not just to remind each other about the values that are most important to us, but to think together and maybe even challenge each other, to think of how we can use whatever tools we might have in our hands, however simple or not, to shape the world around us, to work together and to celebrate the journey we're trying to make towards love and towards freedom. May it be so, and may we make it so. I invite you to take a deep breath, to take a moment to be fully present in this place together, where for now at least there is nowhere else you need to be. Take a moment to breathe deeply, to be present in this moment where for now at least there is nothing else that needs to be done. Let's join together in shared silence. Blessed be.
We have 3 short readings this morning. The first one is History's Road by Marjorie Bowens Wheatley and Clyde Grubbs. The road of history is long, full of both hope and disappointment. In times past, there have been wars and rumors of wars, violence and exploitation, hunger and homelessness, and destruction of this earth. We have become a global village with a growing realization of how fragile this earth is and how interconnected we are to each other and to all creation. We cannot continue to live in the old way. We must make a change, see a new way, a way toward peace with justice and a healthy planet.
And these words by James Baldwin, who says, "For nothing is fixed forever and forever and forever. It is not fixed. The earth is always shifting. The light is always changing. The sea does not cease to grind down the rock. Generations do not cease to be born, and we are responsible to them because we are the only witnesses they have."
And finally, from Patrisse Cullors, co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement. While there is so much hell on this earth, so much pain, there is also this, a love we could not have predicted but always imagined, a love that rocks us and a love that holds us, a love not ordinary.
This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. So much of our life is lived in this shallower plane, spending so much time on screens and reading headlines that depress us and checking off the boxes on our to-do list. Well, at least I should say so much of my life is the to-do lists and screens and reading depressing headlines. If that's true for you, though, I invite you to take some time this morning to tap into that love that Patrisse Cullors spoke of, the love not ordinary, the love we always imagined might be possible, and that we can find within us and between us. I think this song speaks to finding that deeper love beneath the surface of things, and I invite you to join me and sing along. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. You got it? Let's try again. Here we go, a little louder. This joy that I have, the world can give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. I invite you to rise in body or spirit. Now, if you're still learning this song, this is the kind of song that if we don't sing the exact same rhythm, that's okay. And if you want to try out some harmonies and experiment a little bit, that's okay too. Let's see if we can try it in 5-part harmony by the end. This joy. Here we go. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This love that I have, this love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This peace that I have, this peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have. take it away. This joy that I have. This joy that I have. The world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have. The world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. This love, twice as loud, here we go. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. 5-part harmony, here we go. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. This peace, last one. This peace that I had, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I had, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I had, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. The world didn't give it. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. Amen. Let's take a deep breath. You may be seated as you exhale. We are certainly, is this on? Can you hear me? Is that coming through? Great. I'll get even closer. We'll just cuddle up here. We are certainly living in times of dramatic and unpredictable headlines. And behind those headlines, there is often a common question being asked of us. How will we take care of each other? This is, of course, also a religious question. And on some days, I think that it is the religious question. In an emergency, when we need help and we need it fast, one of the most basic, tangible answers to this question of care is that we call for an ambulance. And I grew up in a world where ambulances were absolutely something to be taken for granted. 911 was, of course, the first phone number I learned. But paramedics haven't been around as long as I had imagined. And before there were paramedics, it wasn't always clear whose job it was to take someone to the hospital when they were sick or injured suddenly. Before we had the system we have now, there was no system. That meant that sometimes it was the firefighters who picked people up. And in some places, to my dismay, it was the local funeral home's job, which, to be honest, doesn't feel great. I can only imagine having some terrible accident at home in my kitchen and hearing one of my housemates call out to the others, "Quick, Matt's down, somebody call the funeral home." I don't love it. More often than not, though, it was the job of the police to deal with medical emergencies. The problem, though, of course, was that neither the police nor firefighters, certainly not the funeral homes, had any real medical training beyond the most basic first aid. So their only job was to get people to the hospital as fast as possible, where care could then begin. This was an ongoing health disaster in our country, particularly for communities of color who were often ignored or even harassed by those same police that were supposed to be rushing them to care. So then in the 1960s, the federal government published a report about all of this, saying that as many as 50,000 deaths a year were the result of a lack of pre-hospital care. And this government report, apparently, unlike so many others, made a real difference. Publicizing the report shamed the government into then providing funding to help address this issue. And when the new funding became available, there was a sort of gathering of badass activists that came together, particularly in Pittsburgh. I imagine this motley crew forming, coming together kind of like the Avengers of the Marvel movies, each character with their own superpower, and coming together to do together what none of them could do alone, to save lives. First, there was the community organizer named Phil Halen, who ran a civil rights organization in Pittsburgh focused on healthcare. He then connected with a jobs training program providing jobs for African American men in the neighborhoods there that had been delivering healthy food to their neighborhoods when it wasn't often available. And then Phil brought in a local doctor with a particular interest in this problem of emergency medicine. And the doctor created a training program, and the Freedom House medics were formed. This group together became the first emergency medical service in the United States to be staffed by people with actual medical training. And the effect was revolutionary. The Freedom House medics signed a contract with the city of Pittsburgh as the first civilian paramedics, and they saved 200 lives in their first year of work. And then, of course, the model of the Freedom House medics that we now know as the ambulance system went on to transform healthcare in every city in our country, changing our very understanding of healthcare, I think. And together, this team not only created a new kind of job, they created a jobs training program for African American men in the neighborhoods there who are often kept out and blocked out of other careers that might have been available to them in this time of even greater segregation than we have now. And in addition to a new job and a new jobs training program, they created a whole new branch of medicine. They found such an incredibly revolutionary and elegant way to answer this question: how will we care for each other? When the old way had become intolerable, they made a change and they forged a new way, as our reading said. But because nearly all of the first paramedics were African American men, the police, who had had this job previously, fought them every step of the way. The police regularly tried to keep the medics from providing medical care, and in a number of cases, that meant leaving injured people on the side of the road while the police blocked access from the ambulance. But nothing is fixed, as James Baldwin reminds us. And the Freedom House medics persevered, and in spite of the police harassment, Pittsburgh had defunded the police, at least in this way. The city of Pittsburgh, and then nearly every city in the country, took away a significant part of the police jobs and gave it to more qualified people with actual medical training. Pittsburgh and every other city in our country have been healthier, and they have been safer places to live ever since. Someday, I believe, it's possible that mediators and mental health counselors and social workers and community organizers even will have taken all of those roles away from the police as well. And when that time comes, if any police are still needed, they will have much safer jobs for it. And when that time comes, going back to the way it is now, where police are expected to do all of these roles, will seem as silly as going back to the way it was when they were also expected to be paramedics. The story of the incredible Avengers-style gathering of the Freedom House medics reminds us of a couple things. Number one, they remind us that nothing is fixed. The road of history is long, full of both hope and disappointment, but another world is possible. They remind us that collective problems require collective solutions, which means that every single one of us has a role to play. In this case, I love that it was the government bureaucrats, God bless them, who wrote the reports and approved the funding. And then it was the Freedom House team delivering groceries who knew the needs of their neighbors and the layout of the streets in their neighborhood. And it was the doctor with the technical skills, and it was the community organizer who brought them all together to do together what none of them could have done alone, They remind us that when everyone has a role to play, everyone's role is made more meaningful when we do it in collaboration together. In this case, the Freedom House team had cast their lot together, and with no extraordinary power, they reconstituted some piece of this wounded world. So let's remember our history as we imagine new futures, dear ones, and ask ourselves again and again, how will we take care of each other? How will we take care of each other better in the future than we did yesterday? There's another similar story I want to share with you. In the early days of the United States, no one really saw it as the job of the government to fund firefighters either. And so the first volunteer firefighting brigades that formed to address this need were in some ways like a privatized insurance company. If you paid them, they would fight fires at your house. But if you didn't pay, if you weren't a subscriber or member, well, they would watch it burn. It gets worse from there, though. That is just the beginning of our adventures in firefighting land. In some cases, particularly here in Boston and Philadelphia, New York, in some cases, these volunteer brigades, they worked more like a mix of a violent street gang and an old fraternal order. They came together around bonds of race and class, the Irish group, the Italian group, and so on. And they fought each other for territory and market share because it had become a quite profitable business. A book called How the Irish Became White describes the situation this way. With firefighting as a pretext, the private brigades fought continuously over control for territory, and they extorted money from homeowners who had good reason to anticipate a fire if they maybe failed to pay. Arson was high on their list of weapons, and one of their favorite tactics was to set fire near the territory of a rival firefighting company and then lie in wait and attack them when they showed up. A report in 1853 said, quote, "There is scarcely a case of riot brought before the courts which has not its origin in the fire brigades." And let's just take a moment to imagine this experience in case that went by too quick. Imagine looking out your window one morning and seeing that your neighbor's house is on fire, burning to the ground. And you can see the firefighters because the gang of firefighters that started the fire are lying in wait, waiting for the other group to show up so they can start beating each other senseless while the homes burn to the ground. And your first thought when you see this one Sunday morning is, oh no, not again. For some time, though, this was the best answer our society could come up with to answer the question of how do we care for each other when our neighbor's home is burning. For some time, this was the best we could do. This was the violence of the privatized fire brigades before we imagined a whole new way and the government stepped in. And you'll notice that in all of the polarized political debates about government regulation, no one ever quite suggests that we re-privatize firefighters back to the racialized mob violence of the past. But for a while, most people assumed that the earth was fixed. They thought that change was impossible. They thought that the best one could hope to do in this firefighting system at the time was to win at the game of corruption rather than to change the rules of the game. And it's easy to laugh at the naivete of our forefathers, but I believe that someday our grandchildren will tell similar stories of our time. They will tell stories of a time when wildfires were running rampant over our communities and our country, and how the privatized fossil fuel companies who caused the fires similarly went unregulated, and how political leaders shrugged their shoulder and said how much they wished there was something to be done about such unspeakable violence. I hope our grandchildren will also be able to tell the story of how eventually we came together to address the emergencies that faced us, and how we learned to put out the fires and put an end to the economies of violence that created them. May we remember our history as we imagine those new futures together. So what do firefighters and paramedics have to do with our purpose here? At the time of the firefighting gangs, there was a similar divide, a similar debate perhaps, opening up in the religious sphere. It was a time when mainstream Christianity had declared a false binary between the saved and those bound for hell, those who were going to heaven for eternity and those who were bound for eternal suffering. But our Universalist ancestors responded to that idea with the heretical belief that no one was unredeemable. They said that no one was getting left behind, wounded on the side of the road. Our Universalist ancestors responded with the heretical belief that everyone would eventually be saved and that no one was saved until we were all saved together. And later on, humanism converged with Universalism, and we ended up with what I think was an even higher standard than that. One that said we shouldn't even wait for the next life for salvation, but we can work to save each other here in this life. We shouldn't wait until we get to the hospital or the funeral home to begin treatment. We can start taking care of each other, dear ones, right away. I believe that the trajectory of humankind is a painfully slow process to stop fighting each other while our neighbors' homes are burning, and to instead learn to put out the fires that are plaguing our people, whether they are in our homes or wildfires, or whether they are floods and the other symptoms of climate chaos. As Adrian Rich said, "My heart is moved by all I cannot save. I have to cast my lot with those who with no extraordinary power reconstitute the world." I appreciate that Rich begins by acknowledging the limits of individualism, all that I cannot save. But by casting our lot with others, she says, nothing less than the world is reconstituted. There was a time when a medical emergency meant calling the police and praying for unlikely help from unqualified people. But the Freedom House medics came together to do together what none of them could have done alone, and they imagined new ways of caring for their community more deeply. There was a time when fighting house fires was only for those who could afford privatized insurance in shady deals with racist gangs, until city leaders came together to recognize that safety for one was safety for all, that our futures were bound up together. Universalism challenges us to continue to imagine better answers to this question of how we will take care of each other. Interdependence invites us to find collective solutions to collective problems because we are bound up together. So, dear ones, let's imagine a more loving world where no one is left behind on the side of the road, and let's make that world real by the love of our hearts and the work of our hands. Let's come together to do together what none of us could do alone, because every one of us has a role to play, and every role is made more meaningful by doing it together in community and in collaboration. Let's remember our histories as we imagine new futures. May it be so. This next song was written by Fea Ora Rose Toure, who was the first black woman judge of Alabama. In addition to that, she's also a singer-songwriter and a poet and a playwright, and she was recently in retirement arrested for civil disobedience, protesting the construction of a Confederate monument. And in addition to all of that, she's also founded 12 different organizations to support her community and particularly work for racial justice. She wrote this song that I think speaks to her work, which is our work as well, to lift each other up. It goes like this. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up. She is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up. She is not heavy. If I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, I will fall down. It says, I'm going to lift my sister up. She is not heavy 3 times. If I don't lift her up 3 times, I will fall down. Let's try it together. Here we go. I'm going to lift. I'm going to lift my sister up. She is not heavy. Again, I'm going to lift my sister up. She is not heavy. Again, I'm going to lift my sister up. She is not heavy. If I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, I will fall down. All right, I invite you to rise in body or spirit. I know you're still learning it. I'm going to invite you to sing it as if you know it really well. Let's give it a try. Here we go. I'm gonna lift my sister up. She is not heavy. Oh, there we go. Yeah. I'm gonna lift my sister up. She is not heavy. Again, I'm gonna lift my sister up. She is not heavy. If I don't lift her up. Again, if I don't lift her up. One more. If I don't lift her up, I will fall down. I'm gonna lift my brother. I'm gonna lift my brother up. He is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my brother up. He is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my brother up. He is not heavy. If I don't lift him up, if I don't lift him up, if I don't lift him up, I will fall down. My sibling, I'm gonna lift my sibling up. They are not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sibling up. They are not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sibling up. They are not heavy. If I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, I will fall down. My neighbor, I'm gonna lift my neighbor up. They are not heavy. I'm gonna lift my neighbor up. They are not heavy. I'm gonna lift my neighbor up. They are not heavy. If I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, I will fall down. Last time, my sister, I'm gonna lift my sister up. They are not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up. She is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up. She is not heavy. If I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, I will fall down. You may be seated. I invite you to take another deep breath, to be present in your body, to be present with all on your heart, and join together in a spirit of prayer. Spirit of love that is within us and between us, extraordinary love. Be with us as we are with each other this morning. Spirit, we are weighed down by so many headlines, so dramatic and so unpredictable. We're weighed down by to-do lists, by conflicts, by the small difficulties of getting through our days in difficult times and filled with worry for the future of this world. Love be with us as we are with each other, carrying it all, carrying it too much. May we remember the love that is within us always, the love between us. May we find that love not ordinary, that calls us to imagine new possibilities and new futures. The love that calls us to care for each other more deeply, to be gentle with ourselves and care for our own hearts more deeply. May we remember and root ourselves in that love that reminds us of our history and calls us to new futures, that reminds us of our interdependence and how we are bound up together, and calls us to that universalism that leaves no one behind. Love be with us as we are with each other in the all of it, in the imagining and the struggles, in the griefs and the gratitudes, in the sorrows and the celebrations, holding it all in community that our burdens may be lightened when they are shared and our joys may be magnified. Love, call us to do together, to come together, to do what we might not be able to do on our own. Love be with us as we are with each other. Amen.
This morning we have with us Kali and Beth from the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute, and they are going to come up and say a few words.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And thank you all so much for giving us the opportunity to be with you this morning in community and to share a little bit about our walk that's coming up. So we are with the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute, and we're aware that you are familiar with our work and have supported us in the past and are grateful for that, and so grateful for your intention to continue walking with us in the future. So as you likely know, we are a center for healing, teaching, and learning, and we support families and individuals as well as communities impacted by homicide, suicide, and overdose. So today, as we get ready for the Mother's Day Walk for Peace, the donations that come in from the walk support two very specific and important parts of our organization: our Rest in Peace Fund and our Live in Peace Fund. And those funds provide the ability for families to be able to bury their loved ones with dignity immediately following a loss, as well as being able to provide for the basic emotional and physical needs the family may have following that loss. So I had to pull a little bit of a cheat sheet because the numbers are not my strength. But in 2021, the Peace Institute distributed $108,416 in the Rest in Peace Fund. That fund actually increased in 2022 to $276,601. To date this year, by March 31st, we had distributed $60,146 in the Rest in Peace Fund. So we sadly know that homicides are increasing in our community, and that fund allows families who come to the Peace Institute to be sure that they're able to bury their loved ones with dignity. The Live in Peace Fund that allows us to provide for practical needs, whether it's housing needs for safe housing following a loss, or the support of ongoing mental health care, or bills because of an interruption of the ability to work following the loss. The Live in Peace Fund distributed $149,409, there's a lot of nines in there, in 2021, which increased to $168,584 in 2022, and to date this year has distributed $32,094. So that is a concrete visual of where your funds, if you are able to and called to support the walk this year, those funds will go directly into those funds to support our individuals and communities. And we are so grateful for the invitation to share this space with you today and to share about the work that we do.
Thank you. As many of you know, twice a month our offering is given to an organization whose work this congregation supports. This effort is spearheaded by our Social and Environmental Justice Committee, and it's one of the ways we fulfill our mission of helping to build a just and healthy world. Today's offering will be given to the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute. To give, please follow the instructions printed in your order of worship or on your Zoom screen. And for those who are in the meeting house, if you have cash or check, there are collection plates at both entrances, and you can leave them at the end of the service. Please support the Louis D. Brown Institute by giving as generously as you can.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round the tendies fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It's time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
dedication. May these gifts be transformed into strength for this faith community, into comfort, food, and shelter for those in need, and may we be transformed by generosity.
Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Let's try that together. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. I'm gonna keep on singing loudly. I'm gonna keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Keep on loving boldly. Gonna keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Now that you got, we'll do the whole thing again. Gonna keep on moving forward. Gonna keep on moving forward. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on singing loudly. Gonna keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. 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 Beloveds, may we cast our lot together, that we can come together and reconstitute some piece of this wounded world. May we remember our histories as we imagine new futures together. May we come together to do together what none of us could have done alone. Go in love, go in peace, and go and be blessed as you are each a blessing to others. Amen.
Hi. Hello? Hello? Hello. I was like, anybody there?
You know,
That was such a fun service. It was the music was so good.
Matt's good.
I've never seen him before. He's
Oh,
like,
you haven't? Yeah, Matt's usually